Java developer, also fanya pia cloud computing and DevOps kwa ujumla. Kwa hiyo but today nachopenda tuongelee sana ni cloud native Spring applications, or in general cloud native applications, because I think for the span ya muda tuliokuwa nao, we base much on cloud native applications, then on the remaining time tutajaribu ku explore on the Spring side of things. So labda wangapi ni Java developers? Okay. And so I assume Java developer is Spring Boot developer, right? Okay. Sawa. So tuendelee. So cloud native, it's a development methodologies. It's a group of methodologies ambazo zina aim at kudevelop systems ambazo zita leverage cloud technologies, different cloud technologies na cloud landscape jinsi ilivyo. So napoongelea cloud, there are so different things that define cloud native. So to start with, you can't have cloud bila kuwa na the cloud yenyewe. So what is a cloud? Cloud just refers to an IT infrastructure that is hosted in the internet. But watu wengi ukiwa unaongelea cloud, kila mtu anakuwa na experience yake ya cloud kutokana na at what point ali interact na cloud au at what area ali interact na cloud computing. Mwingine ukisema cloud atakwambia labda AWS, Google Cloud and the likes. Mwingine ukimwambia cloud atakwambia bana cloud is Heroku au DigitalOcean. Mwingine kumwambia cloud atakwambia cloud bana, cloud ni Google. Yani Google, that's cloud. And of these people atakwambia bana cloud yani labda ni internet au ni server ambayo ikishakuwa kwenye internet tayari ni cloud. In which in one way or another hayo majibu yote yanaweza kawa ni sahihi. So cloud, what defines cloud is kuna the cloud itself, kuna sasa nikiongelea what defines cloud native application, kuna properties the application. Pia clouds can be just practices can define cloud. Cloud can be defined by the architecture and sometimes the topologies in the cloud can define the cloud itself. And what is the goal of cloud native? First is speed. Taanza kwenye hii box la katikati hapa. The push toward cloud solutions and architectures was first speed, faster and flexible delivery. That is speed where we are talking about application development. Speed is fast and flexible delivery. In what sense? Kwa dunia ya sasa hivi iterations za delivery ya software, you can check for instance kama LinkedIn in a day. Wangapi wanajua LinkedIn? Wanatumia LinkedIn? Do you think how useful is LinkedIn? Wengi kusema kwamba LinkedIn, lakini LinkedIn is just a professional network. It means kwa Tanzania labda it's not something ambayo tunaweza tukaongelea kwamba ni kitu ambayo social network ambayo ni popular au ni useful, lakini when it goes down to LinkedIn actually it's popular now. Twende Quora. Nani anatumia Quora? Yeah. Actually I read about ilikuwa ni Quora, frequency yao ya delivery in a day, it's massive. How frequent changes zinapandishwa. Lakini ukiingia Quora, hii kitu gani wanafanya hao jamaa? Lakini in a day, number of delivery, number of deployments, it's not less than, it can go even to hundreds. Kwa sababu gani? Nature ya development ya sasa hivi ni it's a teamwork. There is no any place ambayo utaenda utakuta development inafanyika na mtu mmoja au wawili, haiko hivyo. Mostly ni work on a number of teams. Personally, I've been working in team watu 20, all working in one project, different goals, different milestones. Kwa hiyo, when I talk about speed, when you are doing your own project, it's not an issue. Speed yako ndio itadetermine delivery. Lakini when you are working in a team, speed is a critical factor for the delivery of the project and the success of the project. So fast and flexible delivery and resilience, availability and stability ya services zako. Hivi ni vitu ambavyo vimepush sana watu kwenda kwenye cloud. One of the most resilient architectures, yet simple and easy to get started with, ni cloud delivery solutions. In what sense? First, tunapoongelea cloud, nitajaribu kuongea vitu vingi kwa wakati mfupi, kwa hiyo I hope tutakuwa wote pamoja throughout. Kwenye cloud, tunaongea resilience. First of all, hizi factors zote ni zinabebwa na kitu kimoja. Cost ya implementation. It matters a lot. For instance, kama sisi tu hapa, wangapi wana host services zao na wanazilipia monthly? Karibia as a developer, at some point you will need to do that. Kwa hiyo vitu vyote vinabebwa na cost. In what sense? Kwenye cloud, kitu cha msingi sana. Wangapi washakusikia kuhusu CAPEX na OPEX? CAPEX expenditure, operational expenditure na capital expenditures. Kwa ni the push toward cloud native, cloud solutions. People are trying to optimize cost of running business. In what sense? Zamani, nikisema zamani, it's not far. Let's go 10 years back. 10 years back ni 2013, 14. Sasa hivyo. Let's go labda to 2008. Ili we establish, for instance, NIT solutions, you need to have your own infrastructure. By then, I think the only infrastructure you can lease is for website and simple stuff, I can say. But to have your own IT infrastructure, you can so that you can host like complex systems and stuff, you needed to establish your own infrastructure. So first, you need to buy servers. You need to lease the internet. You need to buy a router at least, network router, for routing your traffic to the internet. You need to have housing, right? You have infrastructure kwenye housing, umeme, air conditioning. That all brings together what you need as a capital to start your business. But with cloud, that capital, and the other side I talked about OPEX, operational expenditure. Operational expenditure ni zile expenditures za kila siku ambazo una incur. Kwa mfano kwenye IT world, server yako imeharibika hard disk, utahitaji ku replace hard disk, si ndivyo? Vitu vya kawaida vinavyotokea. Utahitaji labda kuinstall OS fulani, ulipie, ununue. Hivyo vitu vyote vina reflect on the expenditure ya operational as you progress. Sasa shida ya capex ni kwamba lazima uwe na hela kubwa sana ili uweze kustart bila kurealize any output from what you are investing. That's when cloud ilivyoingia ili kick in, kwa sababu ilikuwa optimize ile capex with just amount ndogo, you can start and scale up accordingly kutokana na flow yako, revenue flow yako na business kwa ujumla. Kwa hiyo hizi issue zote zina one of the pillar ambayo inabeba ni cost. Kwa hiyo nilikuwa naongelea resilience, ku achieve availability and stability, it's very expensive. Kwa sababu the only way you can do availability is to have two things. Ukiwa na peni moja ikiharibika moja, huwezi kuandika. Kwa lazima uwe na peni mbili. For the essence of availability is to duplicate, is to have redundancy. But how are you going to optimize that redundancy in such a way that tunaweza tukapunguza gharama ya kuweza kuachieve availability and stability. But cloud gives you that. Most cloud solutions from the box, they come with availability and stability. You don't need to worry much about it. And scalability. When I talk about the cloud, scalability ni one of the factors ambayo inawapeleka watu kwenye cloud. Kwa sababu gani? Leo ukiwa na data center yako ina capacity fulani, inamaanisha it's up to you kuutilize ile capacity. Kwa hiyo uweze ukasema kwa mwezi unalipia umeme wa 200,000 operate data center, haimati kwamba wewe zile server zitakuwa zina run application yako na user wanatumia au hawatatumia, utalipa tu ile hela 200,000. Lakini with cloud you can set even your application at night ika scale down up to even 0, ikawa haipatikani at night. Ikifika saa 2 asubuhi application yako ita start. With cloud now it's not even a must to have a server. We do serverless. For instance, mimi natumia sana AWS. Miaka 5 nyuma, the way nilivyokuwa natumia AWS na sasa hivi, miaka 5 nyuma, by then kulikuwa kuna serverless, lakini ilikuwa ni when you review the technology implementation and stuff like that, unaishia kusema this is not for me. Lakini use it to serverless, it's not something you can ignore. Yani ni kitu ambacho you need it, kwa sababu it's not a must uwe na Ubuntu server, weke application we run, but just a single task or a single job or whatever. Sasa hivi kuna serverless. Kwa hiyo scalability, elasticity and dynamic scaling is one of the major factor ambayo imepush watu kwenye cloud and overall defines the cloud. Kwa hiyo in any cloud solution ukifikiria, you can study it by looking at these goals. What are they trying to achieve? Is it speed? Is it resilience? Is it scale? Is it cost? Efficiency in cost? And hivi vitu vyote, it's a trade-off. In most cases, you can't achieve both, but you try to trade off depending on your use case. That's why kuna solutions architect and the likes of the law, ni watu ambao they can take a look on the infrastructure and the needs and try to trade off kutokana na mahitaji ya business. Kitu kingine nilikuwa naongelea tukasema the cloud itself, ambao tuna describe infrastructure, the cloud computing, the cloud services, IaaS, CaaS, PaaS, FaaS and SaaS. Tutaviangalia kwa ndani kidogo kwenye next slide kwenye hizi cloud services, but kwenye cloud yenyewe tunaongelea infrastructure, but mostly this cloud tunavyo interact nayo, it's like you're interacting the front end side of the cloud. We don't go that deeper to the back end side of the cloud to see the data center and stuff like that. But they are operating, and there are different modalities and architectures. There are different regions, availability zones, and regions in the cloud. For instance, now AWS, sisi nimeanza kutumia AWS mimi, and mpaka sasa hivi regions zimeongezeka. Kwa hiyo ni infrastructure ambayo unaongelea kwa sasa hivi dunia nzima. By then ilikuwa South Africa ilikuwa ndo inaanza, yani bwana kutakuwa na AWS Africa, ilikuwa ni dream kwamba tunafika Africa, lakini sasa hivi AWS ya South Africa it's operating, na a lot of organizations, big organizations, they migrate to cloud in Africa, South Africa to be specific. A lot of organizations, name it bank, telecom operators, a lot of them, they are using cloud. Kwa sababu growth ya, for instance, in the fintech area, growth ya fintech technologies, applications imekuwa kwa kasi in such a way that pasipo ku leverage vitu kama cloud in an organization ni vigumu ku catch up na pace iliyopo. In clouds also, there are topologies. I talked about serverless. Now ni kitu ambacho kipo na well utilized serverless technologies. Kuna orchestration. We've heard about containerization and container orchestration. One of the major things that defines cloud and containerization at large. Also, the application properties, scalability, loose coupling, resilience, manageability, and observability. Scalability, it's ability of the application to either scale down or scale up. Application iweze kuongezeka au kupungua depending on factors fulani. Inaweza kawa usage, inaweza kawa time of the day, inaweza kawa different scenarios can lead to scalability requirement. Loose coupling kwenye landscape ya sasa hivi ilikuwa ni kitu ambacho ni option, but now it's something that is essential for your application to be adaptable to cloud, and whether a private cloud, a public cloud. Kwa sababu gani? Mostly development zamani ilikuwa application, tulikuwa kwenye monolith, where coupling ya modules, coupling ya services ilikuwa ni kitu kimoja, vitu viko highly coupled together. Lakini sasa hivi loose coupling ni one of the factor pia for when you analyze quality ya software. In what sense? It means kwamba if there are two components kwenye system, change in one component should have no effect or minimal effect to another component. For instance, sisi wote wangapi wamesha kudevelop a simple application? Wote. Wangapi wamesha kuconnect kwenye data source, database? Umeconnect kwenye database gani? Postgres. Kaka? Postgres. MySQL and the likes. For instance, kwenye application yako, how much hassle was, for instance, nikwambia bwana, you know what? Try Postgres. Tuweke data source nyingine. How much hassle was? Kaka, kwako hassle yako ilikuwa kiasi gani nikwambia bwana tubadilishe data source? Okay. So before hustle ya kubadilisha data source tu, ukitaka kujua kama how coupled your system is, database na system yako ni vitu very different systems, but can we switch? How much effort do we need to switch one data source to another data source? That defines the coupling. How much application yako ina adapt different environment. Kwa hiyo inamaanisha application yako na database viko highly coupled together. Any change in the database direct affects your code base to the core of your business logic. That's high level of coupling, in which kwenye cloud it's highly discouraged because everything should move at different pace and at different direction, but at the end of the day we need to achieve a single goal. Manageability, as the system we are putting in place a lot of controls to manage, to administrate. So administration involve patching, updating. These are the things ambazo kwenye cloud native I can say modern generation inayofuata wangapi tumeshawahi kufanya patch kwenye DigitalOcean server kwa mfano, au server yote umehost, umekuja hapa bwana lazima ni patch server na activities za hakuna hicho kitu, si ndivyo? Unless ni infrastructure ambayo umekuwa offered kabisa ile server ndio utahitaji labda kupatch, in which kwenye cloud na yenyewe that is automated. Kwa hiyo manageability, level of manageability and automation in manageability also defines cloud. Resilience, naomba tu skip kwa sababu tumeshaielezea, and scalability. Also practices can define cloud. Automation, in which different automation mechanisms are put in place kuhakikisha kwamba zile task ambazo ni repetitive zinakuwa optimized, and kuhakikisha kwamba tuna save kwanza resources na muda kwenye kuzifanya. Na kwenye automate, the step before automation is optimization, right? We identify the task we need to automate. Second, we optimize. We make sure that this way of doing a certain task is the optimal way. For instance, nahitaji deploy. There are different ways to deploy different artifacts. For instance, nataka deploy a React application. Kwa tutaangalia je, what's the easy way to build a React application? Okay, is it an optimum way? Okay. Coupling yake ikoje? Iko loose coupled na other system. Okay. The building process inachukua dakika ngapi? Bwana, hii inachukua dakika 2. What's the problem? Can you put pale process that ambazo zinaweza zika optimize hii process kupunguza huo muda? Tukishafika to the point kwamba tumeoptimize, let's say to 60 seconds, then we automate it. Kwamba the optimum process should be automated. Then we can automate using different tools kutokana na architecture or landscape ambayo tupo at that moment. Kwa hiyo pia kuna continuous delivery, better and faster deliveries. Kuna vitu ukifanya ukiwa unafanya development peke yako, delivery should not be an issue. Assume uko wewe, watu kama wewe mko 5, mko 10. That's where delivery comes, inakuwa ni issue. In what sense? Source code management, simple task. Wangapi hivyo washawahi kukwama kwenye conflict ya source code management? Ushakuwa kwenye team na tumia source code management, code base iko sehemu moja alafu mkatengeneza conflict, alafu kutoka outside the conflict sometimes inasababisha conflict ambazo zinahitaji session hata 3 ku resolve. It's hectic when it comes to resolve JIT issues, for instance. Huyu atakwambia to rebase yani kuna a lot of conflict, kwa sababu source code management a simple task tushazoea kufanya yani frequently in such a way that kila mtu ameadapt its own ways of doing it and it works. But sasa kwenye continuous delivery we need to make sure that the delivery point ya application is as quick and iwe inaenda smoothly bila kuleta hizo conflict, starting from the basic as the source code management point of view and the builds and the deployment at the far end, kwa sababu ni vitu ambavyo katika siku tu deployments zinazofanyika inaweza ikafika kwenye team hata deployment 100. For instance, kama kweli unatumia a global service, for instance kama YouTube, kwa siku modules za YouTube zinazokuwa deployed inaweza ikafika hata laki au millions of deployments in a day. Kwa hiyo ni kitu ambacho kina define your cloud infrastructure, how your cloud is designed to support continuous delivery, how that cloud solution iko designed to support hicho kitu. And jumla kwa DevOps, unajua DevOps sasa hivi mtu akisema DevOps unajua ni mtu, lakini kimsingi DevOps ni culture, ni culture and practices. Sidhani kama ni personally, mimi kwa sababu wangu sidhani kama ni sahihi kuwa na DevOps kwenye teams. Personally huwa siamini katika hiyo, kwa sababu it's more of a cultural thing. At some point in a team, in an agile team, lazima member mmoja, it can be a rotational for anybody in the team to take DevOps responsibility. And when I say DevOps responsibility, it's not like to coordinate, more of coordination point of view of DevOps task and issues. But as it is, DevOps now it is treated as a full-fledged, I can say, responsibility, or JD, a job description of a DevOps, in which, by the way, I'm a DevOps, a DevOps person. So yeah, a lot of culture of, it's a culture of collaboration between different roles. For instance, purely in my day-to-day, I try to make sure the operation guy don't fight with the development guy. Sababu in an operational environment, there are a lot of conflicts when it comes to development and operations without breaking things at a high pace. Yeah. Kwa ujumla, that's what define cloud and in general cloud native. But what you can take from all what we've been talking is there are 3 P's of cloud native: platform, properties, practices. Hivi ni vitu vya msingi sana ambavyo kwa ujumla vinatupa picha what cloud is, and we can assess and see our application or our solution, is it cloud native in the sense, is it rules coupled in such a way that it can adapt different environments where it is potent without any hassle or nguvu nyingi kwenye kuhakikisha kwamba inafanya kazi. Can say kama retrofitting fulani, yani uweze system yote uweze kuipachika a new module au kuondoa na kuibadilisha pasipo hassle. Kwa hiyo kwenye platform tuliongelea kwamba cloud native application run on platforms based on dynamic distributed environments on the cloud, whether be a public, private or hybrid. Unajua ukisema cloud mara nyingi watu wanajuaga yani ukishasema cloud service yako iko public. No, kuna private cloud, and all cloud provider you can extend their cloud infrastructure to even to your data center. You can extend the cloud to the data center level. Your data center can be connected direct to the cloud solution provider. So they are hybrid setup, they are private, there's public setup, depending on the needs and the requirements. Also, there are another piece, properties. Cloud native applications are designed to be scalable, loose coupled, resilient, manageable, and observable. Wakati unajua observability. Ngapo sha kusikia neno observability kwenye application development. It's something that ambayo people never talk about it. Lakini trust me, observability is the key kwenye app. Kwa mfano application ambayo ina process transactions. Unafanya payment, ina process payment, inatuma hela kwa mtu, inapokea hela, and weekend watu hawapo kazini, si ndivyo? Hatupo kazini. Over the weekend something happened. Labda kaka unaitwa nani? Hood. Yeah. Na kutumia 100,000 kutoka kwenye solution yetu tumeitengeneza. Ikatokea kwamba nikutumia 100,000 unapata 200,000. Over the weekend, everybody is enjoying the weekend. Peace. Sindivyo? Kama tulivyo sasa hivi. But ukituma hela, mimi nakatwa 200,000, wewe unapokea 200,000, nilikuwa nakutumia 100,000, sindivyo? It's working. The system is working. But how are you going to know kwamba kuna matatizo? Nikamtumia huu, akakaa kimya. Huwa akampigia mshikaji wake mwingine, bwana ukituma hela kwa solution hii unapata double bwana. Na mimi nikagundua kwamba nikituma hela inakatwa labda 100,000 kwa mfano, lakini kwa destination inatuma double. What will I do? Kama human instinct, unajua? Adam ananidai, Alice ananidai. Alice ananidai shilingi ngapi? 100,000, nakutumia 200,000. Yaani mimi ndo nakudai. Umeona? How are you going to know kwamba system yetu something is not okay? It's through observability. With observability, we are trying to instrument our application in such a way that we can collect different data from the running application and be able to analyze it, and mostly proactive analyze it, and inform us on whether certain operations are unusual so that we can act, or the system can auto-remediate. But the essence of observability is instrumenting our application. Nikisema instrumenting, kwa wale watoka kwenye engineering field, kuna darasa inaitwa instrumentation. Kwenye instrumentation bwana, it was kind of an interesting class in the sense, in instrumentation mainly from engineering za umeme, instrumentation it's more of kupima bwana volt kiasi gani imepita, wala current kiasi gani, resistance, yani having a sense of knowing from your maybe your circuit or your electrical system different measurements, and be able to inform us on either there's a power loss or anything. That is instrumentation. So kwenye application instrumentation, you try to instrument different critical areas of application so that they can inform you on whether something is happening wrongly or something is fish is going on, ambayo ikiendelea in a course of day or two tunakutana na catastrophe. Naongelea sana kwa sababu ni kitu ambacho watu wengi huwa we don't consider. Unajua kuna kwaga na functional na non-functional requirement. Most of the time tunakuwa tuna focus sana kwenye functional. I have to make sure this thing is working as mimi nikituma hela iende, imeenda fresh. Tunapiana mikono. Lakini in looking at the big picture, kuna non-functional requirements ambazo mostly tunajuaga zile za kujibia mitihani, labda security na nini. Lakini in the real world, a non-functional requirement ambayo personally mimi huaga tunagombana sana kwenye timu yangu. Naikaga mguu chini sana when it comes to, is your application observable? How do I know that your application is working as we are? Kila mtu anaishi, kila mtu kwa hiyo yani application yako lazima iwe inaongea na sisi. For instance, kati ya day to day activity ambayo mimi nafanyaga kwenye role yangu iko powered na observability. Asubuhi nitaingia, nitaanza kuangalia different application, lakini kupitia observability capability ndio naweza nikajua okay, no, something is not okay. Why response time imebadilika kutoka 1 second labda to 12 second? Why am I calling this API and waiting for results in like 6 seconds? Why am I connecting to the database from maybe microsecond now natumia labda half a second or 1 second? Why transfer call labda call ya transfer TPM imeshuka? Kwa nini transaction zimeshuka per minute? Lakini how am I going to know kwamba transaction per minute zimeshuka? Kama application yangu to some point in every moment ikifanya transfer haitotoa hiyo event ikatuma kwamba transfer imefanyika, nikarecord. Kwa sasa the easy of doing hivi vitu, for instance kwenye AWS, one of the cloud provider ambaye ni I think ndo ana majority share kwenye industry. Kuna event pipeline in which every event you can subscribe to that, urahisi sasa kutoka kwenye application yako you can just publish an event in everything you are doing. It's such a way that application now ichukua inaweza kaanalyze sasa, okay, system ya fulani imeleta event hii, ikakusanya zile event in a minute, ikakupa insight kwamba okay, umeprocess hizi, ulivyo connect kwenye DB, ukaconnect kwa dakika hizi, ulivyofanya hivi yeah. For instance, kwa mfano kwenye Spring, umesema unatumia Spring, sio hivyo? Kwenye Spring kuna micrometer. Ushawahi kusikia Spring micrometer? Au APM? Yeah, kuna a lot of packages kwenye kila technology stack. Kuna technology, kuna implementation ambazo zina enable hizi vitu, lakini watu wengi huwa hatu stress sana kuhusu hizo technologies. Kitu kingine kwenye zile P3 ni practices, in which tuongea kuhusu automation, continuous delivery and DevOps. So kwenye cloud computing kuna different service models kutokana na mahitaji ya watu na pia kutokana na different business cases. Watu wengi kama unaweza kama umekaa kwenye meeting unasikia tu IaaS, PaaS, mtu sometimes jamaa wanaongea nini, lakini ni vitu vya kawaida tu. For instance, to start with, kwenye cloud delivery models kuna IaaS, nikiwa nasema as infrastructure as a service. So kwenye cloud and cloud native development, ili kuamua what kind of development are you going to do and what kind of delivery are you going to do, we need to know about infrastructure platform model ipi, in which kwenye IaaS, infrastructure as a service, cloud solution inakuwa offered inakuwa at raw, yani inakuwa ile mbichi, yani kwa mfano in a normal way, infrastructure as a service, it means give me a server, give me storage as storage, give me servers, Ubuntu, a Red Hat server, a CentOS, or any Windows server. That is the infrastructure as a service. Kwa hiyo nikiwa nasema kwamba delivery ya hii service is infrastructure as a service, it means kwamba kama mimi ni haitakuwa na any containerization, yani itakuwa ni I can't say it is a bare metal, though the bare metal is an infrastructure as a service, can be infrastructure as a service. For instance, AWS can give you a bare metal, but a VM, virtual machine, ambao unapewa, una install labda PHP, uka install labda Ruby, uka install labda Java, uka install labda whatever platform au technology kuipower application yako, ile ni infrastructure as a service delivery. Na kwenye growth ya cloud ilianza sana, matumizi mengi watu walikuwa wanataka infrastructure as a service. Mimi nasemaga mtu anayependelea infrastructure as a service ana trust issues, in the sense kwamba yani unanipa service sijui hata server ikoje, sija login kwenye server. Unajua kuna old school veterans, unajua mtu aamini kwamba service is running mpaka a login kwenye server fulani, akutana na black screen ya yes things are working. But siku hizi infrastructure as a service, it's a special case. When you need infrastructure as a service, it means you are putting something that will need to make sure certain standards are met from the lower level building up. But container as a service, CaaS, I think majority tumeshift sasa hapa kwenye container as a service. Okay, I trust you, container infrastructure yako iko vizuri, I don't need to sasa mimi ninunue infrastructure as a service, nianze kuweka sasa container platform, then from there ndo niweke application yangu, na muamini kwamba Google anaweza akanipa hii, au Amazon au Oracle au whatever player aliye unayemtumia atakupa. For instance, kwenye Google kuna GKE, right? Wangapi wanatumia Google Cloud? Au cloud solution, wangapi wanatumia AWS hapa? Peleko, wangapi wanatumia Google? Peleko, ushatumia Google. Ukumbuka tulishakufanya Firebase. Nitaka kuuliza by the way, Firebase ipo bado? Okay. So Google, Oracle Cloud, OCI ni vitu ambavyo watu wanatumia sana. For instance, kwenye Google kuna GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine. Kwenye AWS kuna Amazon Container Service, Amazon Kubernetes na yenyewe engine ya KE kama sikosei. Kwa hiyo kuna a lot of container delivery platform ambazo ziko delivered in the modality ya CaaS, container as a service, in which badala wewe kuworry about Kubernetes inafanyaje kazi na kwa deployed vipi, just go straight to the deployment of application in Kubernetes. Wangapi washaanza kuset kama kutumia containerization? So kama hujawahi kutumia containerization, alafu kwa mfano unataka kudeliver kwenye Kubernetes, ndio labda it's your new role, una deploy kwenye Kubernetes, then hujawahi kutumia containerization, your manager tells you, you know what man, I first of all create infrastructure ya Kubernetes, then from there to deploy the service and to monitor na nini, utaacha kazi kwa sababu it's cumbersome. Kuset up tu wenyewe kuna a lot of technologies involved, a lot of protocols, a lot of configurations. Lakini kwa cloud to do the same thing at even much faster pace. You just need from 30 minutes to 1 hour. You just need to read the documentation, which most cloud solution providers are very good at documenting. And then implementing a specific thing that you need to implement. But before that, without cloud, you would need to have your own server. From that server, we install a lot of technologies before even realizing your end goal. But with CAS, you can just purchase, na kuna hizi zote zina one cross-cutting issue kwenye cloud computing service models. A cross-cutting issue hapa ni cost. Yani the main cross-cutting issue hapa ni cost. Na kuna other cross-cutting issues, lakini mainly ni cost. Nitajaribu kuelezea mbeleni how cost is a cross-cutting issue kwenye hizi models. Kuna platform as a service inakupa development and deployment tools, API, and the underlying infrastructure at a limited level. For instance, Firebase. Firebase is a platform as a service. In Firebase, we don't know even the server iko wapi. Lakini tuna API ya Firebase, we can interact with. Kuna Heroku, wangapi wamesha kutumia Heroku kudeploy application zao? Kuna Heroku, DigitalOcean, it's a platform as a service. Though DigitalOcean sasa it's like a cloud provider. Anakupa different offerings. Kwa hiyo kwenye platform as a service bwana, vitu viko more simplified. For instance, to deploy a Node.js application using Heroku, it can take you like 15 minutes. Application yako it's running, tayari ina an FQDN, you can access it from your browser. You are done. Kwa mfano kwenye AWS kuna Elastic Beanstalk. In a matter of 15 minutes, you can deploy your React application, for instance, and be able to interact with it from the browser in the internet. Kwa hiyo, as we go from left to right, pia vitu vimerahisishwa zaidi, I can say. Pia kuna serverless platform. Now, kwenye cloud computing models, ni kitu ambacho kiko pale muda mrefu sana, lakini watu wengi walikuwa wanavi-assume. Ila kwenye serverless platform, you don't have to have to know about the server, the IP address of the server, or anything. You don't have to interact with maybe SSH to the server and see stuff if everything is working. No, you don't have to do that. Kwenye serverless platform, it's more we are dealing with functions. Ndio maana wameita FAS, it is a function as a service. Wangapi washai kuandika function ya? Browser hapo usema unatumia Spring, sio hivyo? Soma unatumia stack gani? Django. Jamaa Python ya. Hamna watu wanaojikubali kama Python developers. Honestly speaking, I believe kwamba they will change the world yani. In which, in one way or another, something. Yeah. So kwenye Django, for instance, utakuwa na function fulani. Tena Python, Python, si flexible. Yani I can write a function cha Python hapa pa. Hata kwenye Word kikalani. Au sio? Kwa sababu yani speaking of Java compilation and stuff like that, again Python it's made from the core kuwa kitu fulani lightweight, ndivyo bwana Django developer. So nakupa task labda moja bana, wewe si Django, nataka a simple task, utaanza application bwana ambayo tu labda kila baada ya lisaa itacall API ya weather, alafu kwenye ile API itarudi response fulani, si ndivyo? Kwenye ile response kuna data hizi za kunduchi, uzipopulate kwenye database. Basi then baada hapo lako hii hapa, you can obtain technology. Django developer kaingia kwenye PC pale, kaanza kutengeneza Django framework libraries, weka pale expose Django application hii hapa. Lakini you don't need to do that, just a simple use case kama hiyo. Kwenye AWS you can go, au kwenye Google. Kwenye AWS kuna Lambda, kuna kitu kinaitwa Lambda. I can go to a Lambda, nikatengeneza Lambda function. Baadaye kutaka kuandika kila kitu chote, nikaandika tu ile function ya Python. From there, nika deploy ile function. Nika expose. Ikafanya kazi. Ikawa inapiga hiyo API kwenye hiyo duration, hiyo muda, ikachukua hizo data, ikaziweka kwenye DB, ikimaliza. Alafu sasa nikawa nalipa AWS kwa idadi ya function calls. Kwa hiyo kama nafanya function calls 10 kwa siku, nitalipa calls 10. Lakini ile Django application yako ungehitaji kuihost, si ndivyo? Ili ifanye kazi kwenye server. Ili kwenye server ungelipia, ndivyo? Na server in a normal way umeenda kuhost kwa provider wako na nini, akikupa labda infrastructure as a service, bwana server hii hapa, it means utalipa kwenye ile server 24 hours of usage a day, 365. Hiyo ndo the normal modality, ndivyo? Kwa hiyo kutoka kwenye kulipa server, ununue server, na wewe haso yako zile tuzikonvert za kwenye man hours. Sasa man hours zile sasa tunakulipa labda man hour, bwana Django developer bwana anataka labda $50 kwa lisaa. Au man hour ya wewe kwanza ku set up dependencies, ku set nini, let's say 5 hours. Hosting, lakini with functioning, it's a simple deployment. And majority our service provider tunawatumia, for instance GitLab. Wakati unatumia source code management gani? GitLab. Django developer anatumia GitLab. Bitbucket, GitHub. GitHub siku hizi sio popular. Very popular. Yeah, GitHub. So, for instance Bitbucket wanatumia AWS. Nishakuwa na incident moja na Bitbucket. Ilitokea nafuta repository Bitbucket. Adam atakuwa nalo bwana. Kwa nini anatumia nani? Hamna mtu anayetumia. Basi tufute. Jamani tufute. Tukafuta hiyo repository. Unajua kama Monday it turns out kuna system ina run production ambayo codebase yake ndio tumeifuta. So what happened? Ile system ilikuwa inahitaji kufanywa some few modification iwe deployed. Bwana hii project nani anaijua? Sasa timu yetu hisi bwana hii tushade commission. Communication ni hizi hapa, tuliambia bwana team fulani, hakikisheni kwamba hii code base sisi tunai decommission kwa sababu it's no longer supported, it's no longer there, and ni legacy system, it has to be replaced with newer system, stuff like that. Code base ikapotea bwana. Inahitajika sasa ili kufanya hizo migration and stuffs. Oh, long story short, Bitbucket, unarudi kwa Bitbucket. Unaanza kutafuta sasa Bitbucket support. Wangapi kwenye hii solution unashaikuwa kufika point ambayo unahitaji support? Mimi nakumbuka kuna development fulani kwa anafanya, kuna data tables. Library fulani nilikuwa natumia kwa ajili ya data table tu. Sasa nilitumia in such a way that kafika point the way ninavyoitumia yani kuhama kwa wengine ilikuwa ni mtiti. Sasa I tried to reach out those guys kama bwana kuna haka feature vipi, yani mbona kama kuna tatizo in one way or another. Of course they admitted kwamba okay, we are working on it, and that was 2020 kama sikosei. I got an email November last year kwamba ile feature ipo ndio imewekwa. So 3 good years ndio imekuja kuwa published. Nimeshasahau hata code base iko wapi. Kwa sasa kwenda kwa Bitbucket bwana, kwanza kupata support, you can know the hassle. Though it was an enterprise support, but it was yet complicated. Kupata wale jamaa bwana, kama bwana tumefuta data kwa makosa, tunahitaji a simple backup, a simple restore data tulizozifuta. Good thing pia kati ya vitu ambavyo vinatupa comfort ya kuacheki Bitbucket, because we know Bitbucket underlying infrastructure yake ni cloud, AWS. Bitbucket inatumia AWS. Kwa tukajua okay, hii Bitbucket wata escalate kwa AWS. AWS ni a very strong cloud provider. Definitely data ambayo imepotea ndani ya siku 2-3, it's not an issue kwake. It's a peanut kuirudisha kwa sababu kuna a lot of resilience mechanism and availability in which itahitaji tu labda man hour kiasi kuweza ku recover hiyo data. Kwa hiyo long story short, of course those guys wakatambia okay, ngoja tu contact provide cloud providers wetu. So it took like good 20 days. Lakini one afternoon those guys came back and say bwana data yenu iko, you can access it hapa. Tukaenda tukaikuta, tukachukua ile repository, tukaendelea na activity in which kila mtu alishakata tamaa kwamba okay, data ya code base imepotea. Na unajua code base ina translate to at any point in any organization, code base ina translate to cost, kwa sababu ni man hours zimetumika pale. Kuna watu wametumika ku develop hiyo over course labda mwaka. Kwa hiyo yeah, kwa hizi serverless platform kwa naongelea hapa, it's a flexibility and yani cost effective solution. For instance, batch job application yako unatengeneza full fledged application kwa ajili ya kurun labda batch processes or a job fulani. You don't need to poteza muda mwingi ku deploy and stuff. You can just have a function ukaideploy ikafanya kazi. Majority ya API tunazozitumia, hizi API tunazozitumia hizi from cloud, labda sijika weather API kanini, a lot of simple APIs at the back end sio server, ni functions ziko powered by function. Function imewekwa ikawekwa API gateway na call function, things happen. Kwa sababu hamna mtu ambaye atakuofa wewe a free service aende kudeploy kwenye server ambayo anailipia 24 hours. Ataweka function. Atalimit function labda calls free 300 kwa siku. Basi unakuta kuna API fulani ukipiga mzigo sana inaacha kupa response. Kwa kuna SaaS, software as a service. Sasa software as a service ndo uwanja sasa wa watu wengi wana play software as a service. For instance, GitHub, it's a software as a service. Unavo commit GitHub, do you know any underlying infrastructure, but it's a software as a service. Gmail, YouTube, these are also software as a service. Microsoft is 365 for instance. Kwenye Microsoft 365 una save document, unafanya nini, zote ni software as a service. Kwa hiyo kwenye hizi models nazongelea sana kwa sababu ni muhimu sana kujua, ni muhimu sana kwenye kila unapo interact na crowd ukajiuliza kwamba okay, as a software developer, can I deliver it in this modality or this modality or this modality? How easy, how cost effective my solution is? Performance nao angalia ni ipi? Ni vitu ambavyo ni muhimu sana kuvizoea kwa sababu sisi wote hapa tunataka kujiajiri. One of the way kupeleka product zetu kwenye soko ni kupitia hizi platform and delivery models. Una capital kiasi fulani, you need to invest. Service yako bwana, wewe umetengeneza kawaleti kako nini Django developer hapo kajikunja nini Django application mwanangu hii ni Python, yani inapiga kazi nini, sawa, fresh. Mwisho wa siku you need to put it kwenye market, sivyo bwana? Trust me, unahitaji kitu kama hiki. Kwa hiyo kwenye hizi delivery models, it's better you know what delivery model iliyopo na cost implications zake zikoje. Kwa hiyo unaweza kukuta pia ni business opportunity. For instance, kwa tunaongelea hapa hizi PaaS, kwa mfano platform as a service, tuongelea Bitbucket, ndivyo? Kama hii ni platform as a service. Kwa Bitbucket yeye ameenda request infrastructure as a service, let's say kutoka kwa AWS au CaaS, from the CaaS on top of it akaweka platform yake. Sisi tuna subscribe kwa Bitbucket ambayo ndo platform as a service. Yeye ni mteja wa IaaS wa AWS. Kwa hiyo kwa mtindo huo pia it's a place ambayo you can realize okay, business opportunity tofauti. You can from a cloud provider fulani ukaona okay, huyu jamaa alivyo implement labda kuna CaaS service fulani, I can take it and utilize it. Alafu kwa public nikaweza kuwapa let's say platform as a service. Karahisisha badala kwamba bwana inaonekana kama public wanapata tabu ku access labda at this raw level, let's say in a container as a service or infrastructure as a service. Why you can extend it ikawa platform as a service, alafu mimi nika check hands na underlying cloud provider, alafu mimi nikawapa watu sasa a more digested service ambayo watu wanaweza waka subscribe kwenye hiyo service. Kwa hiyo generally hizo ndo service models in which, as I said, you put an emphasis on the moment unaangalia cloud delivery gani unatumia, it's better kujua modality gani, ambapo kwenye kuziangalia tukasema kuna cross cutting issues ambazo you need to be very careful and choose one or another. So if cost is one of the cross cutting issue, you need to know the service model unayoitumia. Je, kwenye cost, how does it work? For instance, should I go with CAS, IAS? What will I lose? What will I gain? Kwamba huko labda nikitumia container as a service, it means sitakuwa na hassle ya kuchukua VM, nianze kuinstall, set up say Kubernetes cluster and stuff like that. Then from there ni progress labda sasa kuweka the intended application, how much hassle do I need and stuff like that. Kwa hiyo hivyo vitu ni vitu vya ku take into consideration. Kwa hiyo kuna cross cutting issues. Issue nyingine ni agility, maybe time ya kufika kwenye market, it's a factor, critical factor. Why should you go for infrastructure as a service if time is of essence? Then you can go maybe for direct to the PaaS to save you some time and manpower. You need to invest beforehand even realizing the profit. Ndio tunasema kuhusu issues za capex and opex. How much do I need to put ili niweze kurealize business yangu na kuweza kuanza kuput, kwa sababu at the end of the day ni tukasema the bottom line ni hivi vitu vyote ni cost. Sababu one point or another we are not running something as a charity or something. Some point hizi vitu vina reflect kwenye output fulani ambayo ni monetary. Okay, so kuna development principles and patterns mbalimbali ambazo they are put in hand kuhakikisha kwamba lengo la pattern ni kuhakikisha tunatengeneza I can say a precedence fulani ambayo a person can adapt it na kuweza kuwa na assurance kwamba atakachokitoa kitakuwa kina either quality goals fulani or delivery objective goals fulani. Kwa hiyo that's why you have design patterns, design principles ambazo zinakwambia kwamba with these principles at least we can guarantee you or we can assure you you will reach kwenye destination fulani with this amount of hustle or with no hustle at all. Kwa hiyo kwenye patterns ni muhimu kuzijua na ni muhimu kuzi-review na kujua kwamba okay, if I do this and this and this, at least nitakuwa nimepunguza uncertainty kwa kiasi fulani, nikajua kabisa kwamba at the end of the day nitafika sehemu fulani. Kwa hiyo kuna just background kwenye hizi 15K factors wanaziita, kuna hero cloud platform developers walikaa waka outline is 12 factors, I can say factor or patterns or methodology ambazo we can try to review them. If you have a solution, you can try to sieve your solution with easy factors, ukajua okay, am I cloud suitable and how should I make sure my application is cloud adaptable and deployable. So kuna characteristics ambazo define the best practices for building web application with idea of cloud at hand. Kuna for instance, suitable to be deployed on cloud platform. Application should be scalable by design and portable across system. I think ni vitu ambavyo tumetoka kuviongea kule kwenye what defines cloud. Portability, loose coupling, ni vitu ambavyo in day to day tunavipractice. Loose coupling of service and stuff like that, ni vitu ambavyo ni day to day tunahakikisha kwamba tunaviachieve. So I try to go faster kwenye hizi 15 factors. Ya kwanza kuna hii one code base, one application. In what sense? This fact and establish one-to-one mapping between an application and its code base. Put it in short, though it cannot be much applicable depending on your environment, but what it tries to entail, I can say, is at least kwenye every application or service, at least you should have a single responsibility in which there should be one-to-one mapping between the application and its code base. Application namaanisha the application. Unajua neno application, we are calling it application because it's an application that does something, and it's an application. So application should have one-to-one mapping with the code base, in which code base yetu, at least we should emphasize on a single responsibility. At any point in time, a single service should be responsible for at least one single responsibility. For example, any shared code should be tracked on its own code base as a library that can be included as a dependency, or service can be run in a standalone mode, acting as a backing service for other application. Unakumbuka tulikuwa tunaongelea in the presentation, tulikuwa tunaongelea kitu kimoja, tukasema tunaongelea observability. For instance, tukasema we need to instrument our application to make sure the behavior of the application, we know the behavior of the application as it runs. Pata mifano hapa. Sasa, for instance, una application yako inafanya payment processing. Ukaipa responsibility nyingine, ukaongezea responsibility, it tries complication pia hata kwenye kuinstrument application yako. Nasema kwamba at some point we need to instrument our application, tukajua the underlying behavior of the application as it runs. For instance, kuna normal behaviors, let's say labda it's a JVM, we need to know footprinting yake ikoje application, so that we can relate maybe application performance na JVM inavyo perform, something like that. But kumbuka tukasema okay, we need to instrument our application to the at least business logic, tukajua kwamba application yetu ina perform vipi with respect to its business intended use, its application. In what sense? For instance, transaction processing per minute or per second. You need to know kama kuna any pool inayokuwa utilized, let's say kama ni database connection pool, kama ni caching, hizo ni na how they reflect on the application. Sababu hizo information zina reflect the application inavyofanya kazi, in which to us as a business people or as a technical person, we can reflect on how we can optimize or kwa namna gani tunaweza tuka improve au tuka predict pia a catastrophe ambayo inakuja. Sasa for instance, maybe response times, tunaona kabisa kwamba okay, we started on Monday, kwenye connection pool labda ya database, active connections zilikuwa 5. Tuesday come to Wednesday, sasa hivi tunatumia connection 100. Je, does it reflect on TPM? No. Kama TPM ni ile, then connections zimeongezeka, kuna hanging connection, kwa hiyo tunapata information kama hizo. Lakini assume application yako ingekuwa ina run, what we can know labda kwenye system logs kwamba success imeprocess, success imeenda, kwa hiyo tunakuwa tuna a black box ambayo hatujui the internal behavior. Lakini with this cloud deliveries, we can be sure and we can leverage technologies ambazo zinaweza zikatuambia kwamba application yetu kwa precedence inayoendelea, aidha mwisho wa mwezi utakuwa na cost kiasi fulani, au in a few days ita crash. Kwa hiyo I can say kwamba, lakini sasa kwa naongelea hapa one code base one application, ukiwa na code base moja na responsibility nyingi, it's difficult to model hizi metrics na kuweza kuziexport na ukapata intended insight, kwa sababu utakuwa na a lot of variables ambazo unahitaji kuzimodel, in which if you implement that inaweza kukuletea implication kwenye performance and stuff like that. In this pia kuna hii point ya deployment is a running instance of application. It means deployment are possible in different environment or sharing the same application artifact. There is no need to rebuild the code base to deploy the application to a specific environment. An aspect that changes between deployments, such as configuration, to be outside the application code base. Pia kwenye kufanya loose coupling, one code base one application inasaidia sana. Ukiwa na responsibility nyingi kwenye application yako, it's difficult even to decouple it. For instance, una supporting services nyingine, unajikuta una application moja inahitaji kuwa na a lot of supporting services, in which some point to move your application, don't be flexible. API first. Jua bwana, API first kwenye business world. API ni, unajua now tuko kwenye API as a service. Unajua most of hizi integration tunazoziongea na nini, hizi solution tunazoziona zina exist kwenye dunia sasa hivi, most of them ni underlying kuna API. It's like a contract, you exchange contracts so that we can work together. Sio hivyo? Sasa API first moba should the thought of API should come first before the development. Wangapi wametumia Swagger open API ile, in the sense kwamba you can develop from the Swagger output. You should be able to develop your application. For instance, me, I'm a business manager or solution manager. I should give a developer an API first, an API definition for him to develop the underlying service. Hii ni muhimu kwa sababu we are sure that the end goal, we will meet the end goal, kwa sababu our contract is our API. So kwenye a race toward cloud native, it's highly encouraged kuwa na API first pattern at the back of our head, kuhakikisha kwamba whatever we think about any service ambayo tunai predict kuifanya au tuna oversee kuikamilisha, API should be first kuliko incremental. As we go, we discover new APIs and we discard the previous one, in which it's highly discouraged. So also by design, the contract upfront integration with other system will be more robust and testable as a part of deployment pipeline. Internally, the API implementation can be changed without affecting other application. Yeah, I think it's a small sentence ambayo inaeleza vitu vingi sana. Personally, may I say the best way to go is, kama we are going with the API first, then first tuwe na hiyo API before development. Second, tuandike test before then to code. Kwa sababu gani? Ukicode before testing, we will try to write test ambazo zinafanana na code yako. Lakini ukiandika test kabla ya kukodi, yani utakuwa tuna kitu kinakukaba hivi, kwa sababu you have to make sure kwamba una meet zile test, na test zitakuwa zimeandikwa with clear mind of what is intended to be delivered. Kwa hiyo hizi ni pattern ambazo in one way or another we may not need them, but in looking at the big picture we may need them. Dependency management, I think this is one of the thing ambayo everyone encounter in one way or another. All application dependencies should be declared explicitly in the manifest and be available for dependency manager to download from the central repository. In the context of Java application, you're usually equipped with Larven or Gradle, all implicit dependence. An application can have on the surrounding environment, the language runtime or dependency manager tool and stuff like that. So, tunapofanya cloud delivery, dependency management, it's important because with dependency management, we can predict our build times, which is very essential when you are choosing a delivery model to consider building times, because hivi vitu vyote vina reflect mwisho wa siku bottom line cost of deploying. If you are deploying too much, it means time yako kama ni kubwa, build time ni kubwa, it means cycle zako za deployment zitakuwa chache, delivery yako kwenda kwenye market itakuwa pace yake ni ndogo. Sasa hivi tunakimbizana na hizi offer. Just imagine 10 years to come kwenye fintech landscape yetu hapa bongo tu. Mostly fintech zitakuwa zina deliver services zile zile. But what matters is who put it first to the end user. Sasa wewe una fintech kwa mfano, kwa siku you can afford 5 deliveries. Can be fixes or stuffs. Mwingine can afford 100. It means he will be fast in putting new features, he will be fast in rectifying. But it all comes to the dependence management. If dependencies zako ni yani model yako ya dependency haijakaa sawa, it means utakuwa unapata tabu every now and then kwenye management ya dependency. And overall kuna design, build, release and run, in which kwenye design, technology dependence and tools needed by a specific application feature are decided. Sasa kwenye hizi stage hapa kwa jaribu wanaelezea kwamba kwenye kila stage what should go about, what utafanya nini, what should. Kwa kwenye build stage, code is compiled and packaged together with its dependence as an immutable artifact called the build. Release stage, it's more of a best practice or pattern. Kwenye releasing stage, naming the release, we know about semantic versioning, make sure we put versioning, because kwenye hizi, as we say, one of the cornerstone kwenye cloud delivery is automation. So automation, it means no human intervention. We put things which will vitafanya kazi pasipo with minimal human intervention or no human intervention at all. So we should go as low as the versioning part also matters, because the system is the one itaamua deploy wapi au at what time. For versioning at that lower level, you have to make sure that you put things in order. Kwa kwenye also run stage, application runs in the execution environment from a specific release. So execution environment pia ni kitu cha kujua. For instance, in the build, you may decide maybe the execution environment for the test or execution environment for the pre-prod should be in this manner. And all of these should be decided and designed and articulated earlier and tested peer. For instance, execution environment kwenye design, build and release and run, it has to be well organized in what sense. For instance, sisi tuna offer labda tunakuwa offer labda GKE tunapeka labda kwenye Kubernetes engine. It's not important kwamba the staging or whatever environment before the production should also run the same GKE to optimize the cost. Unaweza kusema okay, since it's containerized, we can choose a more cost sensitive solution that you can use to test the solution, and in the production we can opt the GKE, because with orchestration and stuffs, our production environment will be robust to handle traffic and adapt depending on the usage. Kwa hiyo execution environment ni kitu pia muhimu cha put as a factor. configuration, credentials and code. Hichi ni kitu muhimu sana kwenye tunapoenda kwenye cloud delivery application. One of the things about we need to consider very much is configuration, credentials and code. In what sense? I'll talk much on configuration and credentials. Though credentials are part of configuration, isn't it? So, configurations, first, configuration should not be part of the code. Unless it's, let's put in configuration in two group. Kuna internal configuration. Those are configuration that decide the internal behavior or internal operation of application yako. For instance, connection pool, connection times, read time out yangu, connection time out yangu ni hii. Some sort of those are configuration ambazo ni internal. Kuna external configuration, you need maybe a token, endpoint. You need maybe a queue now consume, queue name or whatever. Hizo ni external configuration. So, to make our application more cloud oriented, we should make sure that configuration are treated as an external part of our application. Though kwenye hizi delivery models nyingi za cloud tayari configuration kuna a dedicated solution ambayo handles configuration and application can fetch configuration, but as from the designing of your code you should make sure kwamba configuration ni an entity ambayo it's not close to the code. For instance, mimi personally I discourage kwenye configuration kuwa na default value unless it's an internal configuration. For instance, unatengeneza payment solution alafu kwenye configuration umeweka API labda ambayo unatumia kufanya payment au transfer. Alafu ukaweka pale, sababu ni vitu tunavyofanya mara nyingi sana, unaweka kwenye default wao tunawekaga ile ya test. Code base yako umeship, umesahau kubadilisha default, umepeleka na test. Piga transfer, zimeenda fresh, kumbe you are utilizing a test API. Matatizo kama hayo yametokea. I've been in one or two messes involving the same situation kama hizo. Kwa sababu gani? We don't think much about configuration when we are developing. As previously nasema, mostly what we focus on functional requirements ambazo ndo zina determine kwamba okay, kitu chetu kinafanya kazi, mteja karidhika, kama ni business side tume tick boxes, lakini hizi non functional ndo vitu ambavyo huwa vina determine sasa adaptability and scalability na vitu vingine vyote ambavyo on the back vitaamua service yetu itakuwa ya namna gani. Logs, hii ni sehemu ambayo ni one of the place ambayo thing ambayo kwenye cloud delivery and kwa ujumla logging huaga ni kitu ambacho yani kiko pembeni sana. Hivi kwenye system ambazo tunafanya wangapi ambao walikuwa na a non functional ya log, yani logging yani imewekwa pale kama non function. Logging yani ya system. Most of the time tunatumia frameworks, ndivyo. For instance, in Spring can go maybe let's say logback. Sasa most of the time kwenye logging bwana kuna Django developer pale huwa anaachiaga, yani most of the time as a practice huwa tunaachiaga framework jukumu la kulog. Default behavior ya logging huwa ni kutokana na framework au development environment tunayoitumia, lakini we don't stress on what kind of logging we are doing and stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, logging should be as external as possible also to the application. But application yako, it's not a rule kwamba all of them can be logs. Logs, what I try to, it's a big umbrella which inamaanisha ni byproduct ya application yako inavyofanya kazi. It will emit events mbalimbali ambazo mostly as a practice huwa zinakuwa put as a file, si ndivyo? For instance, it's an Nginx server, will have an access log, an error log, in which by looking at it we can see the internal behavior application pia kwamba okay, request imekuwa processed, how haikuwa processed, au ilikuwa saved, how haijawa saved, si ndivyo? So kwenye application yetu, whatever we are logging first lazima iwe meaningful. Kama tunatumia a framework, we should stress on overriding the default behavior log. Make sure that we put log ambayo ni meaningful and itatupa story of what is going on kwenye application. Whatever we are trying to deliver kwa customer, there are times ambapo it won't happen as we intended. We need to come back and take a look and see what was going on. That can be proactively or after an event imetokea, logs zinaweza zikatumika. Sasa kwenye cloud delivery solutions, they are trying to put logging of the application in a more real-time manner. Before logging kulikuwa kuna modality mbili, kuna push and pull modality kwenye logging ya application. I know what most of the time we don't stress about logging, but if you come from fintech or stuff like that, if you are dealing with people's money, system like that, or system ambayo ni intensive, you need to know what is happening. Logging is very important. So for instance, before it was encouraged sana na watu wengi wako wanatumia push modality. From my application, nita design a modality either through a library or whatever that I will push logs. I will push log, for instance, kwenda kwenye maybe any log aggregator or stuff like that. Wangapi wametumia labda Logstash, wametumia labda Fluentbit, Filebit. I think hizo ni technologies nyingi ambazo tunazitumia kwenye aggregation ya logs na processing ya logs. It's a very important factor kwa sababu application yako kama haijawa designed, nilikuwa naongelea, naomba nirudi kwenye push and pull modality. Kwenye hii factor, kwenye cloud native application, it's highly encouraged to leave the pull modality. Application yako isiwe yani si stress sana kuhusu kupush, bali kama kuna log aggregator ndio awe ana pull zile log, in which it's performance effective. Though it's a discussion point, everybody wameadapt kwa namna yao, wanasema bwana push logs ni jukumu la application inatakiwa inahakikisha na push logs kwenda kwenye intended place ya kuvisualize. Wengine wanasema bwana pull, lakini pull modality it's highly encouraged. Log aggregator will fetch logs, will process them, manage the back pressure and stuff like that, and make sure the logs stream is working well and good. Kwa hiyo sasa kwenye logging part, you have to make sure kwamba application yetu, the way inavyoandika logs, the way inavyo publish kama ni events za logs, first uwe na consistency, structure and length or frequency ambayo inafanya logging. Lakini log should not be designed in such a way that application iwe responsible for handling all cost-cutting issues kwenye logging. Should leave that behind the log aggregator, because kuna in all cloud provider kuna a designed infrastructure for handling things like that. And believe me, it's working. For instance, kwenye AWS kuna technologies nyingi zinafanya. Kwa mfano kwenye CloudWatch. kwenye development side of AWS, kwenye kila service ambao wana develop wao wenyewe, ambao kwetu sisi ndo can be a platform as a service or whatever, wana emit events. Yani kwenye kila kitu inachokifanya ina emit event ambayo inaenda kwenye pipeline ya event yao. Kwa kuna event manager yao ambayo inapokea different events kutoka kwenye different services in which inazi process. Sasa there is no need ya wewe tena ku stress about that. Una deploy labda kwenye cloud provider, you can go direct to utilize the API or whatever modality ambayo una connect na event pipeline ya hiyo cloud provider. Kwa hiyo logs is a very essential part of the application and the working application kwa ujumla. Ningependa tuongee sana kwenye patterns. Me personally, I don't stress about coding much kuliko best practices. Kwa sababu now you have AI. You can tell it, for instance, tunaweza tukakaa hapa tukaambia kwa mfano labda sasa hivi ChatGPT tuandikie kodi ya kufanya kitu fulani. Itaandika. Tutaiambia umekosea, andika nyingine. Itakupa solution nyingine. Fanya hivyo kama mara 10. Alafu nenda kwenye solution ya kwanza itest. Trust me. Unaweza kukuta inafanya kazi. Nenda kwenye ya pili ambayo ilikosea. Itakwambia kabisa sorry nimekosea, itest tena. Itafanya kazi. Kutoka ya kwanza mpaka ya 10 zote zinafanya kazi. How are we going to decide kwamba which one is the best one? It's through patterns, through design principles. Kwa mimi, I think kwa industry yetu Bongo, mostly developers waga nasemaga kama tunakuwa kama Indian developers. Hivi usikiza tutorials za Wahindi ziko more of application side of things, kwamba we have to make sure it works. So whatever we are doing, yani bottom line it should work, and they are good at that. Lakini in order to kutengeneza some engineer wazuri zaidi, should focus pia kwenye patterns on how we deliver our solution. It matters a lot and it defines a lot. For instance, kuna scenario isha kututokea kwenye one of the place ambao I've been working with, kuna deliver a big platform, umuhimu sasa wa log, na from the designing, from the development, which took for more than a year, development, from the solution architect, everybody in the team, hatujai discuss kuhusu logging, but framework did that for us. Sawa, okay, Spring, okay, logback, watu security bwana, logback iko fresh, secure, nini. Logs were there. Tukaenda post deployment, ingiza some mzigo wa raia. Yani sasa system yako umetesti, tupo watu kama 50 tumetesti. Mwanangu login faster, tuna login faster. Mwanangu kituma fresh. Mikono nini, pop champagnes. Sasa ile siku ya change over. Sasa we get to experience the real traffic. Nataka kuelezea ni impact ya logging isipokuwa effective. A real example ambayo imetokea in less than 6 months. Tulivyo deploy ile system, kwa sababu ilikuwa ni app USSD. Kwa hiyo sasa app it's easy to deploy. In what sense? You don't need much players. Umepromote application yako kwa wale wa iOS. Kuna ka process jamaa huwa wana takes time, lakini at the end of the day utapublish. API tuna hakika zinafika, secured nini, watu wata login fika. Lakini kwenye upande wa SSD it involves much prayers, kwa sababu you need to redirect API calls kwenye SSD. Lazima mwisho wa siku mwambie bwana, toa hapa peleka hapa, MNO na nini. Sasa after shifting everything, now system inaanza kupokea mzigo. Mind it was a microservice architecture, so by then it was like 50 services they are working. Naanza sasa at the midnight, unajua watu wameshashangilia, unajua midnight, mimi ndo wala I highly discourage changes at midnight. Kwa nini tukutane kama tunaloga? Tunaenda kwenye change should be every time of the day, pretending that tuko kwenye tunafuata patterns, lengo la patterns, principles and all rules we are putting ni kupunguza uncertainty. Unaona? Sasa at midnight, unajua no problem, everybody will enjoy the service. Starting after 2 hours, 3 hours, I remember the infrastructure guy pulled me pembeni, bana, I think ilikuwa ni storage ya Mongo. Mongo dili bwana resource. Sasa unajua kwenye virtualization hizi VMware kuna ESXi hosts, ndivyo? ESXi host 1, 2, 3, ambavyo kwenye ile hypervisor ndo direct sasa hardware. Kwa hiyo sasa host ana represent hardware fulani massive, RAM, CPU. Sasa ile DB ikaramba host nzima, yani ilibidi extend resource, akamaliza host. Inaendelea kutaka kurequest more, yani. Sasa kana bwana hapa mpaka sasa hivi at the moment ananicheki host tayari imekula kama GB kama 50 hivi in terms of RAM. Sasa over 3 hours calls ikaramba host nzima, yani GB 64 ikabidi extend, bado ina require. Sasa unajaribu kurudi sasa kwenye dev team, wao bwana tuna in labda 2 hours tutakuwa tuko down. Sasa kwenye ku backtrack sasa kama okay, Mongo inalalamika, what's the problem? Je, kwenye application yetu what we are logging, what we have put as metrics, zilitakiwa by the way zituambie beforehand kwamba no, where you are going, we can predict utilization ya resource hii, pige chini, kwa sababu the more you're utilizing na the rate ambayo you're utilizing it's not efficient. Lakini nobody sees that, and it was a catastrophe in short story. Yani it took another 3 days to stabilize your service. Kwa hiyo lakini logging and everything was cool. Ukicheck application you can see kwamba hey, we are good, we are processing transaction, but at the back it was catastrophe. Kwa hiyo changamoto kama hizo, it will go back down to vitu vidogo vidogo tu ndio vinaweza vikatusaidia kuhakikisha kwamba tunatoa kitu ambacho kipo at standard. And kitu kingine ni disposability. In a modern setup tuliokuwa nayo, we don't care much about application zetu. Ushawahi kujiuliza application yangu ikidondoka, how much hassle do I need to restore it back? The recoverability part, is your application disposable? Because in the cloud native tuliongelea kwamba mostly we encourage containerization with a mind of modularity and stuff like that. And by default, whether it be a container or a pod in Kubernetes, it should be ephemeral. It should be something that you can dispose it at any point in time. There is ule msemo waita bulls and cattle. naanza kuongea trading yani no. We should not petting our containers or pods, and you should not pet them in the sense kwamba your application should be able to die and start at any point in time and be able to recover. There are patterns and different principles in such a, like, don't put your state, should have stateless in our application, and there's a lot of things ambazo zina cut across kwenye hiyo disposability, lakini to put it in short ni kwamba application yako should be disposable. So at any point in time you have to think about recoverability. Can I recover from a catastrophe? If I go down, my recoverability strategies ikoje? Je, application can self heal? Kwa vitu kama hivyo. Kwa hiyo pia recoverability mara nyingi inakuwa ni changamoto kwa sababu ya shutdown. Je, at point in time application yako inataka ku shut down, what recoverability methods or practices are put in place? For instance, in Spring Boot kuna kitu anakiita graceful shutdown, in which from the designing it's there, you have to configure it. It's a simple configuration, you put it, the application graceful shutdown. Ikisema graceful shutdown, kumbuka as our application process traffic. So in graceful shutdown, it means it's something that stop, it depends on the way the application or the framework is designed, stop accepting new traffic, process existing traffic. After all traffic has been saved, then shut down the application. So whenever the application receives, let's say, a sig term, or Linux, pata ile sig termination signal kutoka kwenye is it kernel, right? Bana terminate, kwamba we hold, ufanye hizo, alafu ndio shutdown. Nakumbuka kama kipindi hicho labda secondary unaambiwa, unafundishwa computer for the first time, mwalimu wa computer akwambia bwana, computer ni kama kitanda, ukiwa unazima kama unatandika kitanda, umeamka asubuhi unatandika shuka nini, zima processes zote, afu mwishoni kabisa ndo una shut down. The same with application, you need to treat it, and you should be most of the time, kwa sababu tunatumia frameworks, I can say ziko handled hivi vitu, lakini if you are doing a application ambayo intended to learn in a long while, make sure every de facto ambayo inakuja na hiyo framework umeireview. Itakupa majibu mengi sana, itakupa point of improvements nyingi sana kutokana na matumizi yako. Kumbuka by default kuna built-in or de facto configurations in which most of the time huwa we don't stress, it's working, don't touch it. Lakini from now on you can take easy design patterns and ukajaribu kusieve your framework or whatever development strategy unayotumia, ukaangalia, je, am I meeting this? Sawa, natumia Django, sawa, natumia Spring, sawa, natumia React, sawa, natumia Larven, je, am I meeting this? How do I log in Larven? Log iko efficient. How should I be able to trace? Should I be able to do this and this and this? Kwa hiyo it's a long checklist, lakini trust me, the end justifies the means. Kitu kingine tumeenda kukaa sana hapa kwenye backing services. Kwenye landscape ya sasa hivi there is no any service ambayo haitakuwa na backing service. You need a database, it's a backing service, it backs your service. You need FTP servers, message brokers, caching system, a lot of backing services in which all of them, first, you need to make sure modality ambao una connect nazo, itakuruhusu kurecover, itakuruhusu kuscale up bila changamoto yoyote, na pia kuzibadilisha iwe ni rahisi. Earlier kwenye hii session tulikuwa tunaongelea kuhusu how much hassle do you need to change data source. Kaona kwamba most of the time mtu anaweza kawa just kubadilisha data source from Postgres, let's say sema Postgres to Oracle, kidogo inaweza kawa rahisi. From MySQL to Oracle, najua kuna watu watakuwa wameface zile issues za data structures zile na nini za database kusumbua, au MySQL to Postgres, whatever. How much hassle do you face? But changing easy backing service should be something that is very minimal. That's why kuna different patterns zipo hapo. For instance, kuna ile wanakuambia you should don't code to an implementation, you should code to an interface. Ni small sentence lakini it's very meaningful kwa watu wa I think object oriented au C# I think Java. Yeah, mostly code to an interface, don't code to an implementation. Now most of the time we code to an implementation, we are focused on make it work. We don't think about the big picture kwamba okay, I should code to an interface. An interface should be like a contract to me that govern my implementation. So at this moment, this application, always this is an interface ambayo ita defined set of operations. So for now, kama natumia Redis, let me code an implementation ya kutumia Redis ambayo ita conform na hii interface, ili siku akija mwingine akitaka kutumia RabbitMQ au Kafka, interface itabaki, implementation itabadilika. So vitu vidogo kama hivi ndio mwisho wa siku vina kuja kureflect on the big picture mbeleni. Environment parity, encourage to keep our environment as similar as possible. That's why kuna kama containerization, it solved it to make kupunguza ile environment parity, at least from the point we are developing to shipping, at least we maintain the similarity in environment. Kuna time gap, kuna people gap, kuna tools gap. I have to make sure that backing service, we keep track of the version and compatibility, kupunguza hizo parity kwenye environment. Kwenye time, continuous delivery, continuous deployment should put in place. Though it's a point of discussion na yenyewe wanasema kwamba we should deploy quick, we should develop quick and deploy quick. Don't put much gap between development and deployment. And one of the point of discussion, again, it's highly recommended that's why we are doing agile. Make sure incremental changes zako ni short and development time na releasing iko as minimal as possible. Ndio maana tukienda kwenye big tech companies, they don't put code ambayo iko tayari kwa muda mrefu. Kilichopo tayari, trigger, build, deliver. As long as it is tested, why should we worry about it? As long as we put a CI/CD mechanism that is robust, let's go. Administrative process, hapa tutarudi tena kwenye the same point that we are in. Administration processes also, you should try to put them pembeni kabisa ya application yako. If you have a job running or a process or whatever, make sure that you are putting it aside. We talked about serverless functions. You can deliver our application fully as a function, as a serverless solution. Kwa naongelea pale kuhusu issue jangu kwamba okay, tumepewa use case kwamba bwana kuna solution, let's say a weather API. You need to make an API call to the weather API. After getting a response, you should maybe do some computation and put, let's say, specific data for Kunduchi kwenye data source fulani, then done. Tukasema we can choose the serverless option. So the same as for administration task. Kama una some batch job or any kind of job ambao unataka kuifanya, you should leverage putting it in a serverless model, which is cost effective, can be efficient, you can tune it to request more resources at a shorter time than putting administrative tasks to your main application or services. So just like an application process, the code for administrative tasks should be tracked in revision controls, delivered with the application they support and executed in the same environment. It's usually administered as a small standalone services that run once and are thrown away as function configured in a serverless platform to be triggered with certain events happening. Yeah, or the same. Mostly nature administrative task, most of them need one-time task. It's not something that is keep on repeating. We should leave transactional kind of operation kwenye our long-running services and kuacha hizi nyingine kwenye administrative tasks, so task ambazo zinaweza kawa ni serverless. Kitu kingine ni port binding. Kwenye cloud delivery, you should focus on I can say when it comes to the network side of things, hapa nilikuwa naongelea sana kuhusu mostly Java, Spring Boot, delivery kind of point of view, lakini kwenye application yako you should not stress much about routing, service discoverability. These are the things that your application should have single responsibility. Kama ni process transaction, routing, service discoverability, leave it outside the application. In what sense? For instance, mimi napenda kuongelea sana patterns. Kwenye service discoverability, kuna 2 patterns ambazo mostly tuna develop on top of. Kuna self discovery, ndivyo, na self registration. Na kuna muda mwingine kuna third party discovery and registration. Yani zinaweza zikawa random, lakini most of the time self discovery, self registration, alafu kuna third party discovery and registration. Kwa mfano, service yako ikiamka lazima iwe discoverable ili itumike, iwe consumed, ndivyo? You should not stress about discoverability ya service yako and leave it external, kwa sababu kuna designated solution for discovering a service. For instance, sasa naongelea kwenye Spring Delivery, kwenye Spring Cloud project, kuna project nyingi. Kuna Spring Cloud Discovery. It's a Eureka server. Wangapi wanajua Eureka server? Ni one of the service ambayo service yako inaweza ikawa ikiamka service yako inajiregister kwenye hiyo service in such a way that mimi sihitaji kujua service yako wewe iko wapi. What I go to the Eureka na inaniambia bwana fulani yuko hapa and at this moment anafanya kazi. That's where I go to kwako. Lakini kwa sasa hivi wewe unahitaji kujiregister kwenye Eureka server, you can leave it to the deployment platform responsibility ya kukujua kama upo na unafanya kazi. Wewe ukawa unapokea traffic. Na pia it's highly efficient. Kwa hiyo kwenye cloud native application, as we are delivering them, we should also consider things like hivyo nilichokisema. Na kitu kingine ambacho ni important and common one is state. You should have stateless processes. Highly encourage state isikae kama part ya application yako. Put it aside. Whether it's a session, don't store session in your application. Make it external in such a way that your specific application dies, another one should start and pick up the session from the another application that died and continue to process as normal. Kitu kingine ambacho ni akiangaliwi sana lakini kina implication ni concurrency. As tunavyoenda kwenye cloud native, in which we are free to scale our application into more instances as much as we can, to scale down and scale up, concurrency plays a major role. For instance, browser pale umesema unafanya Spring, sivyo? Java tunajua ni multi-threaded, right? In your development, how much time do you stress about threads? Do you dive to the level of knowing that what thread is processing this? Au Spring application ikiamka, main thread inafanyaje kazi? Task gani zinabaki kwenye main thread? Task gani zinakuwa, thread gani inatumika logging, thread gani? In a normal situation, you don't need to stress about it. But when you are trying to make sure your application is cloud native and reduce the number of surprises, I can say, you have to make sure that the thread model of the application at least una picha nayo na unajua how it works. Kama kuna thread pool, utilization yake ikoje, ili at the end of the day you can be able to put metrics zitakazo kuonyesha kwamba application yangu ina run out of threads, I need to optimize it, or kuna inefficient process ambayo ina consume a lot of threads na zina hang, vitu kama hivyo. Kwenye Java kuna JVM inaweza ikasafa pia kwenye issue ya threads, in case ukirun out of thread application yako itakufa. Kwa hiyo concurrency model have to be take it into account as you are thinking about the cloud delivery. Okay, kitu kingine ni telemetry. I think we have been emphasizing a lot about observability, in which it's one of the thing ambayo ipo sana kwenye cloud. Ni muhimu sana kuwa na telemetry data in such a way that we can know the application yetu inafanyaje kazi as it continue to operate. Should keep metrics through logs, through metrics ambazo zinatumwa na application, or traces and health check and health status. Hizi zote ni telemetric data ambazo zinatusaidia kufanya different decision kuhakikisha application yetu inaendelea ku run. Kitu kingine ni authentication and authorization. Security, I think it's one of the most cross-cutting issue when you are developing these applications. So when you are designing a cloud native solution, you have to think about the security. Lakini as a single responsibility, you should not stress about implementing your business logic and security. It's better to put security as a separate module and utilize security as a service instead of having to implement fully your security and embed it in your application. But most of the time, it depends also on the scale of the application. If it's a small scale application, you can just implement security and other business logic all together, then everything should be fine. So here it's encouraged to think about standards when implementing security instead of your own use case, but hizo use case zako za security try to extend them from the standards zilizopo. We have OAuth2, OpenAD and the likes ambazo ziko encourage sana kwenye cloud native delivery. Yeah, I think my presentation ndo inaishia hapo. Asanteni sana kwa usikivu wenu. I hope pia Beleko Adam atashare hizi slides, also reference ambazo nimesumia sana ni 2 kutoka kwa vitabu viwili, Microservices Patterns by Chris Richardson na Cloud Native Spring in Action by Thomas Vitale. I think hawa wote publisher hao ni mmoja, Manning. It's a good read. I encourage you in any setting uliokuwa nayo, try to review hivi vitabu. I think nimechagua hivi vile kwa sababu viko in a very simple and applied language ambao from the reading point you get the picture and you can apply it direct. Hiki microservice patterns hakina kabisa code yoyote, doesn't involve any coding. Ni maelezo more of patterns. Kuna Cloud Native Spring, it's a more of a guide ambao you can walk and you can develop a sample project ukaenda nayo. So these are good reads. I encourage, not all the time you should go to tutorials. Do tutorials, but have some time kwa ajili ya vitabu. Kuna vitabu tofauti ambavyo vinakupa a deep picture ya hizi services and delivery. For instance, mimi can share contacts, naweza nikashare some vitabu. Mimi personally huwa nasomaga sana hizi services and technologies. Kwenye vitabu kuna a lot of information ambazo kwenye hizi tutorial au articles mara nyingi huwa zina focus on making something specific work or create something, na hata title zake pia huwa zinasema hivyo, lakini kwenye vitabu at least you get a picture and overall picture ya service ilivyo, na ukapata different knowledge stream I can say, ambayo itakusaidia sana kama unataka kutoa kitu ambacho ni efficient and kiko vizuri. Kwa hiyo kuna a lot of books which I can recommend and share. Personally, I've been reading Microservices Patterns, Cloud Native Spring in Action by Thomas and Chris Richardson. They are good reads. I recommend them to start with if you want to go to cloud native development and microservice kwa ujumla. Yeah. So from this point, I think we can do maybe a demo. First tuende kwenye maswali. Samahani. Yes, kaka.
Ulisema unaweza kufanya test hapo ndio kaenda kufanya code.
It's not a rule. Actually iko hivyo. Ila from the critic point, kwa nini tunaandika test? Tunaandika test at any point in time we are testing as a means of validation. I want to validate if what I've done is conforming to what, in which in the normal flow you implement something, you test it. Lakini personally mimi naona the reverse is best, kwa sababu naonaga kama ukiandika kodi, ukitest, ukaandika test yake, unakuwa kama unaiforce test iye ikonform ulichokiandika. Lakini kama framework yako unayotumia, you can start with populating the test first, try them. Zitakuwa kama mwalimu, yani zitakuwa kama zinakukaba hivi kwamba no, do this. Though yeah, in a normal, you write something, put tests for it, you test it, you move. It's an open discussion. Mtu unaweza ukasuggest the best way, ila mimi naona the best way, if you are of API first, if it's API first, it means the contract is there from the beginning, and there may be a team meeting discussing the contract, the API. Okay, why are we having this API? Why are we having this and this and this? Kwa nini? What are we trying to achieve? Na vitu kama hivyo, and then from there, kama tuna API yetu in which it's a final product, my critic is, why should we write a test for that specific API first? Then somebody else should code it and run the same test and pass those tests. Anyway, it's a more of a dialogue point of view. Lengo ni kuhakikisha kwamba best practices are there. I hope nimekujibu vizuri. Kwa hiyo it's not a rule. I think you won't find it anywhere wanakwambia hivyo. Ila kuna other readings and other people they are trying to say the same, kwamba bwana test should be come first or should be thought first.